Hi everyone and welcome to Working Wednesday. This is a series on my channel where I talk about anything related to working online and or becoming a digital nomad and traveling full time. In last week's video, we looked at 5 online teacher mistakes, or more specifically, 5 teacher mistakes that I made when I started teaching English online to predominantly B2 to C2 level adults about 4 or 5 years ago. And today, we're going to be continuing with the next part, which are mistakes number 6 to 10. Now, if you do find that value has been added to your life after watching this video, please consider subscribing. You can do that down below. And also, the thing I wanted to say about this video in particular is that as teachers, we're all different, right? And that's a real positive, because I think if we were all the same and we all had the same approach, everything would be very boring and it would be very difficult to kind of distinguish ourselves from each other. So a lot of the points in this video are ones which you might not agree with. They're things that kind of work for me. They're things I consider as mistakes for me, but for you, they might not be mistakes. If that is the case, it might just be something to think about. It would be great to hear your views and what works for you down below to help other viewers out. So I would welcome your contribution. Okay, let's crack on with mistake number 6, which could be slightly divisive among some of you. That is inflexibility. When I talk about inflexibility, I'm describing your policies as a teacher around rescheduled lessons and cancellations. As with many of these points in this series of videos, many of them are related to the balance between being a teacher and a business owner, and also the issue of student retention. So it's something to keep in mind throughout this video. When we start off as an online teacher, we are generally in a position where we are trying to build our student base, build our reputation, generate long-term students, and let's face it, probably not earning a lot because we're charging quite low. Therefore, when you have a day planned of like 8 lessons, and you're thinking like, okay, this is how much I'm gonna earn at the end of the month, but then you have 4 people cancel at the last minute. It's perfectly understandable to be quite emotional about that and think, I'm not gonna swear, but you can imagine the kind of reaction that you would have. But you do need to employ an element of rationality to the situation and also flexibility. It can be very tempting when you start off as a teacher reading forums and watching videos like this to think that you need to be this strict teacher with this overly strict policy. But I'll give you an example. I used to do that, right? And I had someone in Brazil who had to cancel a lesson at the last minute for a perfectly valid reason. I can't remember what it was now. But I said to her, sorry, you can't reschedule. That's it, you have to pay me for it. Did I ever see her again after that? No, I didn't. She ran for the hills. She was gone. And then I had to start all over again looking for new people. If you do employ an element of flexibility, you're much more likely to retain students. I'm not saying that you should be a complete pushover and say, yeah, that's fine, do what you want, because absolutely that's not the case. There needs to be an element of respect, mutual respect between the two of you. And as I said in the previous video, talking about building a relationship and rapport, and that's also about building expectations, clarifying expectations and what you would expect from a student and what they would expect from you. You have to remember as well that, especially if you're a digital nomad or you're traveling full time, you're gonna have problems where your Wi-Fi goes down, or you have a power cut, or you have bad Wi-Fi. You're not gonna be in one place all the time. And students understand that, and they know that things will happen in your life. I've had cases, power cuts, buses being late, you name it. And if you have that relationship that is one of mutual respect and understanding that we're both adults, we have other things in our life, we have other commitments, we have work, we have children, we need to commute to work and back home. Things happen. So my advice with this is don't be this strict person, but also don't be a pushover. Have an element of flexibility through building relationship and rapport. Okay, moving on to mistake number 7. Again, this could be another slightly contentious one, and actually it's one that is kind of a new thing for me, and you'll notice that I'm being a bit contradictory in what I'm saying with this, and that is about using distancing terminology. What does this mean? Okay, this might be a bit novel and revolutionary, but I find that using terminology like student, lesson, assignment, homework, client are words that just create distance between you and the individual or learner or whatever. Again, this might be something that you don't agree with, because for you that might work, and that definitely creates this kind of business mindset, but it doesn't help with the comfortable factor. It doesn't help with reducing pressure. I'll give you an example about something I saw on Instagram a few days ago, and it was about the fact that we should be calling a job interview a meeting, because a job interview isn't just about you telling the interviewer what you can offer them. It's also about you asking them, well, what can you offer me as an employer? And calling it a meeting rather than an interview can completely take away that pressure that you have, like think, oh God, I've got to go to an interview, it's going to be a nightmare. And in a similar manner, calling a lesson can immediately generate this feeling of pressure and stress for that individual. Call it a call instead. It's an adult that you're having it with. You're an adult, they're an adult. You're on the same footing. There isn't like this distance between teacher and student. If you're teaching lower levels or beginner levels or children, yeah, of course, there might need to be that distance and levity, if you like, but it doesn't necessarily work for higher level advanced adults. So my advice here is just think about the terminology you're using. Use your empathy skills. How would you feel if you were an individual, a student, taking a lesson with someone who was very strict, was talking about homework, assignments, lesson, client? It's just a bit old-fashioned in my mind. I think we need to be having a bit of a different approach with the terminology we use as teachers or business owners, which is a common theme throughout these, as I said. Mistakes number 8 to 10 are kind of all connected. They're all related to the wonderful topic of lesson planning, one which I know may be rather prominent in your minds. So point number 8 is thinking that every student needs a plan. Now, again, this might be creating fireworks in your head. We're teachers. We need to have a plan. There needs to be a structured approach for each student, individual. But it's not always the case, honestly. I think the mistake I made with lesson planning was thinking that every student needed this elaborate plan with assignments and exercises and you name it, when in reality, they didn't want that or need that. The key with lesson planning is about your trial lesson. I cannot emphasize this enough, just how invaluable those 30 minutes are that you have with them, because you can really go into detail around how that person learns, what they want to do, how they prefer to learn, the kind of content that they want included in a lesson. It's absolutely imperative that you take advantage of those 30 minutes, because you can actually ask the question, do you want a planned approach or do you want an unplanned? And this kind of blew my mind a little bit, because I thought that, everyone would want a plan and structure, but I was quite surprised, and I remain to be surprised around just how many people just want to talk. They just want conversation practice. As I said in point number 1 from the last video, practice and confidence are key. And some people, they just want to talk about something, yet they might want you to send them a couple of ideas for conversation topics, or maybe an article that you can send them. They can read it, look at some of the vocabulary, use that in conversation. That's okay. The thing about lesson planning is that sometimes it's a very rapid process, if I'm honest. And if you have kind of a catalogue of lesson material built up over time, you don't have to go searching for things to talk about or searching for topics for all eternity, because you've already got it and you can just simply work through that like a bit of a program, if you like. So my advice here is talk to the individual about what they want. Quite simply, don't automatically assume that you need to have this ridiculously complicated plan for everyone that applies to everyone, because of course everyone's different. Have that conversation with them about what they want. If they want no plan, that's okay. Don't force it on them, okay? Because it's about what the student wants at the end of the day. Mistake number 9 is thinking that I needed to create courses. Again, this is a big one, because as a teacher, we think we need to have a course. We need to have this big, long plan of a 10-lesson course that someone can buy. But there are 2 issues I have with this. Number 1 is relevance. So let's say, for example, you set up a business English course, and someone from Warsaw who works in digital marketing, for example, purchases this course. Great, you do all these 10 lessons, fantastic. They're all relevant to that individual. But that doesn't necessarily mean that each of those lessons in that course are going to be relevant to a software developer in Moscow. My advice here is to create bespoke plans for people. Don't just assume that a course is going to be relevant to everyone. Lesson 2, 7, 8, and 9 might be perfectly relevant to that software developer, but the other ones, they don't add any value. It's going to be a waste of time. That's one issue that I have with courses. The other issue is around student retention. If someone purchases a 10 lesson course, what happens after lesson number 10? But if you decide not to use courses in your teaching, you can maintain and generate long-term students. Now, I've got an example of a lovely lady in Moscow who works in investment banking. She's been a student for about a year and a half now. We have 2 lessons every week. So we've gone through everything in my Business English ebook, which, by the way, you can get down in the description below. Once we've exhausted that, what do we do next? And we had the conversation again around what should we do together. We look every week at maybe an article relating to business, or we look at another topic, might be general English or whatever, but it's suitable for her level. By being flexible and changing your approach when needed, you can maintain those students for a long time. You don't have to have this 10 lesson course that I think is great for short-term needs. So, if someone has a job interview coming up and you might want to do particular topics in a course that would benefit them in an interview, great, fantastic. If that student has no intention of staying with you for 2 years, that's fine. I have that. Not all of them are long-term people. Then yeah, courses are great. But my advice here again is don't assume that everyone will be the same and that a course will work for everyone. We're going to go on to mistake number 10 now, which was thinking that planning a lesson needs to be a one-way process, when actually it needs to be a two-way process. Again, going back to the trial lesson, talk about what you want to do with the student, what they want to do. It's so important. When it comes to lessons, you may think that, okay, I need to plan my lessons for the week. I need to do this, do this. This is what we're doing because I'm the teacher and I'm the one that has the control. I'm the one that says we need to do this. It's incredibly unattractive. When you are trying to maintain long-term students and build relationships with them, it's important that it needs to be a two-way process. Another example, a lovely lady called Svetlana in St. Petersburg. She's an older lady, she's lived an interesting life, she's got a lot to talk about, she's got a lot of life experience. With her, she prefers to alternate things. So one week I might suggest a topic to talk about and then she might suggest one the week after, or I might do it for a couple of weeks and then she might say to me, oh David, is it okay if I suggest a topic for next week? Go for it, Svetlana. It's fantastic because it takes a bit of the onus off you for planning, and also it encourages the student because they're thinking of a topic themselves, they're having some control over what's going on. It's more of a partnership. It's not just a one-way controlling dictatorial approach. It needs to be collaborative. And that's my advice with this point, is about generating, creating, fostering that partnership between the two of you where you both feel comfortable to say things and be honest, like, is this working? Shall we try something else next time? Do you want to suggest a topic this time? Have you read anything or seen anything on TV this week that you want to talk about? Fantastic. Don't be so rigid in your approach to lesson planning and teaching because, as I said, it's unattractive and it doesn't generate those long-term students. Okay, those are mistakes number 6 to 10 done. Next time we're going to be having 11 to 15, and after that we're going to be doing a separate series all about business-related mistakes that I made. Yes, there have been many. I hope you've found this video useful. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe to catch later ones. Over there you can check out various playlists, including all of the teaching videos I've done in the past. And that's about it. Fantastic. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Have a good week. Catch you later.